sure to smash subscribe and leave a comment down below saying, "I subscribed," and I'll try my best to reply to your comment. Now, enjoy the video.
Surprise. We're of course looking at the UFO hearings. We're examining whether or not there are non-human entities among us, whether or not there are recovered extraterrestrial spacecraft, and why, as usual, you were right that this is being used to generate extra military expenditure without ever really acknowledging the deep reality suggested by these whistleblowers' revelations. Let's have a look at the story. President Biden's $842 billion budget request for the Defense Department for fiscal year 2024 includes $30 billion for the U.S. Space Force, the largest funding request to date for the military space branch. How like the governments of our time to take the ontological miracle that there are advanced intergalactic species communicating with us, some of you believe that, some of you don't, and turn it into additional expenditure for military private contractors. This is a sort of miracle akin to the kind of revelations that you would read in scripture. There are pervasive intercosmic consciousnesses communicating with us. Potentially this has been happening throughout civilization. Maybe the reason there are gaps in our observable evolution is because for a long time we've been communing with advanced species that perhaps have even been involved in our advancing civilization. Perhaps some of the phenomena we discuss in scripture, religion, in temples and synagogues around the world relates to these heavenly beings, these orbs in the sky, these chariots of fire. So certain we all live on one rock in limitless space. We should be turning our attention and our combined efforts to finding ways to live peacefully. How can that ever be possible? Clearly, a massive and defining culture like American culture is falling apart right now. There's no reason to have centralized systems in the way that we do. What we perhaps could advance are new ways of living, new ways of worshipping together, new ways of affording one another the maximum amount of freedom in the face of the revelation that here in the universe we are not alone, that the infringements and fractures between us don't amount to a great deal when you consider that there are presumably powerful civilizations that could wipe us out like that. Let's get on with the business of using diplomacy and peacemaking as the modalities of our time. No, instead of that, let's prepare for more war against people with big eyes and grey faces. Firstly, why have you even got a UFO office if you don't think there's such a thing as UFOs? What are you doing in that UFO office? Nothing. There's nothing to do in there because UFOs are not real. We just sit in there and we do nothing all day long except not auditing our massive expenditure on wars. We sit in there with calculators doing nothing. I actually was able to write boobless. Look, do I have a UFO office if you don't think there are such things as UFOs? How could there be non-human technology? All day long in the UFO office, we laugh and laugh about the ridiculousness of that. Next door in the crocodile office, they're astonished about events in Florida where people claim there are weird, big, jagged-toothed lizard things biting people on the toes. So how is this being used now? As a distraction from criminality within government, from ludicrous jumped-up charges and bizarre hearings, from FBI deep state corruption. Perhaps it's being used in all of these ways. But one thing that the Pentagon are not doing is admitting that it's plausible and true. So remember, those of you that sort of just automatically, if they say UFOs are real, UFOs are not real, remember, it could be a bit more complex than that. But in his statement, Kilpatrick called the testimony insulting. He's insulted by that. Here in the UFO office, we don't hear any crazy talk about UFOs. When I shut that door of my UFO office, I don't want to hear about aliens or spacemen or spacecraft. We're sitting there and we talk about stuff that only happens here on Earth. That's it. I'm insulted by that. Hey, what do you think all these spaceships are that we got around here and these gravity-defying machines and this alien corpse? And what's David Gross talking about? I don't want to hear it. Shut the UFO office door. And I don't want to hear a word out of you, E.T., or you, Alf, and Chewbacca. Shut your mouth. I don't want to hear it!
Better late than never.
And claim Patrick in a personal statement. Yeah, all his statements are personal. He's living on mad, giddy emotion. Reportedly posted on his LinkedIn page. Page. Newly single. And you better believe I'm ready to mingle, David Grush. Although not with UFOs, because they ain't real. In a personal statement on his LinkedIn page, slammed the hearing, saying he was deeply disappointed at the denigration of civil and defense staff. He's an emotional lunatic, Kilpatrick, isn't he? You never even worked here, David Grush, and UFOs are definitely not real. Now get this lightsaber out of here! I cannot let yesterday's hearing pass without sharing how insulting it was to the officers of the Department of Defense and Intelligence intelligence community, he wrote. The guy's running on pure emotion, working in the UFO office, denying the existence of UFOs and treating former employees like they're lovers that jilted him at the altar. Among Grush's eye-popping claims at Wednesday's hearing were suggestions the government may have been involved in murder while covering up its alleged UFO secrets. So it's quite serious stuff's being alleged here. Grush told lawmakers that he was scared for his own life after becoming a whistleblower. Well, we all know that whistleblowers are generally treated with a good deal of respect and don't end up regularly homeless and vilified in the mainstream media. Let's have a look at some of those congressional hearings.
We begin with that historic UFO hearing on Capitol Hill today, as we just said, the bipartisan push for transparency.
Oh, bipartisan, that's good news. Everyone can just get along and buy each other a Coca-Cola. Whenever both parties come together, it means only one thing. We're all agreed that we want more money. It's always that.
What are these unidentified objects? Where did they come from? And are we alone?
I think what you've not understood there is the word unidentified.
Take a listen. Here are some of the key highlights from that hearing.
I was informed,
Yeah, Jeremy Corbell, shout out!
in the course of my official duties, of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
The controller told us that these objects had been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space.
It says Tic Tac was far beyond current tech. Oh, they don't mean ordinary Tic Tacs. My God, it's sweet, it's sour, there's so many of them in here. This is blowing my mind. What's that in the sky? Nothing. Get out of my UFO office. How dare you even point up there? These are delicious, though.
Tic Tac, sir?
We arrived at the location at approximately 20,000 feet, and the controller called merge plot, which means that our radar blip was now in the same resolution cell as the contact.
Obviously, something extraordinary is going on and has been going on for some time. That's what I believe. And we shouldn't perhaps be surprised that how this phenomena is being reduced is the same way every miracle of technology and revelation is. Wow, the internet! We can all talk to each other from across the world. That means we could organise new communities. We could find people that we have common interests with. Why? We could set about projects to save the world together. It doesn't matter how unusual or strange you are, you'll be able to talk to someone who knows exactly how you feel. We could do that. Or also, we could spy on everyone and censorship. Oh, yeah, that's also possible, I suppose. So we shouldn't be surprised that the UFO phenomena, like there's lights in the sky, there's dizzying technology, this means that our interpretation of what God is, what prophets are, what life, biology, chemistry, the most rudimentary understanding of the universe has to be reevaluated, which we already know from quantum physics. All of the things that we consider to be static amount to little more than local customs in our particular dimension, on our particular plane of reality. This is just obviously evidence of that. Instead of recognizing that what we have here is an opportunity to reevaluate our philosophy and our approach to life at a time when it's bloody needed because there's wars and fracture all over the place. Instead, it's just like, can we use this to keep our existing system going and in fact yet more profitable for the very people and institutions that have proven to be utterly corrupt? Yeah,
All four of us, because we were in F-18Fs, so we had pilots and Wizzo in the back seat, looked down a small, saw a white tic-tac object with a longitudinal axis pointing north-south and moving very abruptly over the water like a ping-pong ball.
Stop using stupid things. Tic-tac, ping-pong. It's like a ding-dong, a tic-tac. Use sensible space words.
As we started clockwise towards the object, my Wizzo and I decided to go down and take a closer look with the other aircraft staying in high cover to observe both us and the tic-tac. We proceeded around the circle about 90 degrees from the start of our descent, and the object suddenly shifted its longitudinal axis, aligned it with my aircraft, and began to climb. We considered 270 degrees to where and we went nose low to where the tic-tac would have been. Our altitude at this point was about 15,000 feet, and the tic-tac was about 12,000.
You're saying tic-tac too much. You're going to have to think of another word for it, because it's ruining the whole hearing. Okay, one way we could undermine this intergalactic technologically advanced species is by referring to their vehicles after sweeties. One of them was a little bit like a tic-tac, another one was a little bit like a Jim Jam. They were like sort of Cheetos in the sky, like sort of, they smelled very vaguely of cheese. When we touched them, you got orange dust on your hands. That's why I don't trust them.
As we pulled nose onto the object, within about a half mile of it, it rapidly accelerated in front of us and disappeared.
I noticed that one corner of the spacecraft contained like a fruity jelly, and you could tip it into the main one. They had like Lucky Charms. There's lots of spacecraft that was just little circles like Cheerios, but every so often there was like a pink one or a green one, and those ones were sweeter.
Our wingman, roughly 8,000 feet above us, lost contact also. We immediately turned back to see where the whitewater was at, and it was gone also. So as we started to turn back towards the east, the controller came up and said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this, but that thing is at your cat point, roughly 60 miles away in less than a minute."
I bit the end off of it, and then inside it was a delicious cream, and I sucked it out of it. It's like a Sky Twinkie.
During a training mission in Warning Area Whiskey 72, 10 miles off the coast of Virginia Beach, 2 F-18 Super Hornets were split by a UAP. The object, described as a dark gray or a black cube inside of a clear sphere, came within 50 feet of the lead aircraft.
At least he's describing things a bit more of a scientific way. Cubes, spheres, geometric, Pythagoras. That's what we want. Not like, it's like a bag of potato chips in there, but you could pour your own. Making it like childhood nostalgia snacks. I hope that guy don't have to ever describe alien corpses. It was a lot like Big Bird, thick, long, yellow feathers, and then there's one like Mr. Snuffleupagus. Two of them, even though they were the same gender, lived together, and it made me think, maybe like